person.
Yeah.
Curtis Smith, everybody.
We'll start with introductions with Frank.
Frank Riz from Dothan, Alabama.
April's oh, we're telling a little bit about ourselves.
If you want to, it's very informal. Do what you want.
Okay.
I just came from a pickleball game, or pickleball, and doing real estate for a few years, but been kind of inactive lately, and I'm trying to get back into more activity.
My name is April Swinton. I'm actually from Geneva.
I turned that one off because I was getting feedback.
And I've been a real estate investor for probably about 12 or 13 years, and I've been flipping and investing and actually birthed a staging business out of my flipping. So I've wholesaled some. I want to do a little bit more wholesaling, but I have rental properties and all that got started just through flipping and real estate. So I've been doing it about 13 years and full time for the last 5 years.
Good job.
Awesome.
I'm Noelle Solomon. My stepmom told me about this group. I just finished real estate class. I've got 6 months to take the test and be licensed, but I just want to explore all avenues.
What's your name again?
Noelle Solomon.
I'm Sherry Graham. I'm with Anthony. I'm trying to, it's my second time coming here, and I'm trying to get into it.
My name is Alexis Moore. I'm originally from Miami, but now I'm in Dothan. And I'm here with my 2 friends, and I want to get into real estate investing, flipping, and everything about real estate. Except for being a real estate agent.
Got one. Or 2.
And I'm Angelique Solomon, and basically I'm a wholesaler, so trying to learn more about that, and the flipping, and also doing other things as far as the real estate.
Mine too.
Sure.
Curtis Smith, Dothan, Alabama. Got in real estate about 5 years ago. Started out on the landlord side of it. Hated it. Don't want to go back to it. I'm not saying that I wouldn't. I'm saying that I'm sure I got into it and did it the wrong way. Got out of it for a few years. Got back into it not long ago. Started on the creative side of it more or less, and wholesaling. Got 3 properties right now under contract through wholesaling. Through lease option. I like that. Simply, I was telling Rob that I like the fact that you can get paid 3 different times. Not only that, I wanted to do wholesaling because it's the easiest way to get in. But if you get caught up with the wrong group of people, it takes a lot of money, and it will drain you and get you to a point like I was done with it. I was like, I'm tired of just giving money and not making anything. And then I just stumbled across this group. I was looking for a group. Every group I looked at was Monday through Friday. I can't make it Monday through Friday. And then when I saw this, it was a blessing. And I'm like, look, joined it. And first time being here, getting ready to network, get out, and just freedom. That's the biggest thing. I want more time with my kids, more time with my mom and dad. I miss that.
I'm Jeff Stryker. I've done a little of this, a little of that. We have several doors. We have several notes that we have available, or that we're using. And right now working on a commercial project. Luckily, after I heard about the veterans announcement, we're down on the South Low Eagle Circle, and looking to build a commercial building there that I will probably be my own tenant. So that's kind of exciting and kind of scary because there's a lot of moving parts to that. But
Awesome.
I'm Leanne Stranger. I am a histotek and a real estate agent, and I mostly work with this guy right here. And he's kind of the leader, and I do whatever he tells me to do. But I'm a real estate.
Well, I don't believe that.
I'm a real cold maker in Alabama. And I've been doing it for about a year and a half now. So just getting into it.
Hey guys, I'm Samantha Stryker. I'm actually still in high school, and my main goals right now is just trying to rehab my knee and hopefully get into the Naval Academy. Don't know if it's going to happen right now.
That's awesome.
I'm just kind of,
I'm not hurt. She's listening.
It's a good time to start.
That's it. Wish I started at 17.
Absolutely.
When I got out of the Army in '98, I went to who was it? Russ Whitney. If anybody from the 90s remembers what Russ Whitney in the TV commercials and learned to flip real estate, and he worked in a slaughterhouse or something like that. Went to one of his events, and of course it was way more money than I had. I just got out of the military in the 90s, 98, you know. I didn't sign up for it, but now looking at it from now and going back, it was a lot cheaper to go through it then. And it's still a lot of the same principles that they teach. So in order for you to rapidly learn in real estate, you either are going to make your own mistakes and pay for it that way, or go to a class and pay somebody else to teach you to miss some of those mistakes. I bring it up every month because people usually ask me. I did pay for one of the expensive courses. That company actually was shut down by the FTC. FTC. What?
Is it FDIC?
Nope.
No.
Federal Trade.
Federal trade.
When did that happen?
Within the last couple months.
Oh, wow, okay.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep. I'm sorry?
It's that little scheme that they have.
You know, I paid the money.
Yeah.
I made more than double what I paid them. Could you go through the class and pay the big bunch of money that I paid and then not do anything and be mad at that company? Absolutely, you can do that. Is that where it stemmed from? Probably. Because they're not going to do the work for you. Right? So I talked to a few of the coaches afterwards because the company's closed now, so it doesn't matter. But before, when I went through, you're not allowed to talk to the coaches because they have a coaching program. So if you're continuing to talk to the people that coached you, they want you to go through the company so they can bill you for it. So there was can't really talk to them. Now, I'll go into some of the events that they have because they have events in Salt Lake, and then they had a summit that they did in Vegas once a year, and meeting some of the other coaches that weren't affiliated with me, and then playing golf with them and building relationships because that's what I do. Now that the company is closed, all that's gone. And I'm talking to all of them now. They're all doing different. Some of them are bouncing out and doing their own thing. They're starting their own coaching companies. They're bringing together money to be available, and they're doing smaller groups, and they're doing phone coaching and all this kind of stuff. Because they're all still coaches. They're all independent contractors separate from the company. That's the way they run all of that. One of them in particular is owed over $100,000 for his coaching. But so when they got shut down, they shut down completely. So what's going to happen out of that, I don't know. I mean, nothing as of right now, you know what I'm saying? But I do know that all those coaches, they have a lot of knowledge, and they're all real estate investors. That was one of the things that company did require, is you had to be an investor to be a coach. So they would, one in particular that I saw, he went 2 weekends per month. So the other rest of the time, and the last time I talked to him, he had 16 deals he was currently working. Some of them were new construction, some of them were flips, some of them were wholesales. He had a $45,000 wholesale deal he was working. But back to your point of the wholesaling, you're talking about people who are getting you involved and they're wanting to pay you to learn their courses and stuff like that. So you see a lot of that, right?
At least $5,000 up front.
Exactly, and that's where you can get sucked in. You have to be careful of, are these people actually doing these deals, or are they trying to sell you a coaching program? Because they're
Then you learn they're making their money off of that instead of doing deals.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shift in the market. When the market is going really well and anybody can flip a house and make money, that's when the real, I don't know what the right word is, that's when the most experienced people will come together and they'll create a coaching course and they'll sell that course. It's because I can sell you a course in a good market. You can find a house where somebody has gotten a divorce or getting foreclosed on, or something's going on in their life, and you can go and pick that house up, do little to no work to it, and sell it and make $10,000. Well, if you paid $5,000 for a course and you made 10 on it, now when they do that, they stack the cash. When the economy tanks, everybody else freaks out. They stop buying, which causes the economy to tank even more. And when it gets down toward the bottom, that's when they start buying. Your real money is made in a recession for people who are prepared for it and who have the money to handle it. And it's all a process. It's all cyclical. It goes up, it goes down. People who know on both sides of it make money on the way while it's going up, and they make money on the other way when it's going down.
Where are we right now?
Right now we're at the top.
We're at the top.
We're at the top, about to tank. Fort Rucker, this area is going to be sheltered because of Fort Rucker, because it's less driven by economy.
Right, it's always gonna be good, no matter.
Not always going to be good.
But it's always steady. In my 13 years of being here in Enterprise, I mean, and dealing in this market, when everybody else get hit, Enterprise is still not affected as much.
Not affecting as much is correct. When I got here in 2008, there were short sales like crazy. New construction homes where people wouldn't buy. But you still have pilots coming every 2 weeks. There was a big downsize in the military, so there was less pilots coming, which there was still inventory here, so that had a small effect. We have a Republican for president. Military is almost always going to go up. You know, it's just, you just look at politics matter. All of that stuff calculates into what's going on. The number of a certain type of property being built in the area can affect what's going on. Cody Drive, I have 6 townhouses over there. There's 24 others or something like that. They're the 2-story with a single car garage on the bottom. There's a set of 4, there's a set of 6, there's another set of 6. The builder that built that whole entire street, he built the first 4. When you get to 80% occupancy, you go to the bank and you can get money to start the next. That's the way it works. Once you get them built and get 80% occupancy, you've proven your concept, you can go get more money. Did that 3 times. Went to do that the 4th time to start the next. Bank said, nope, too many of that type of property. If you go down Freedom Drive, Cotter built hundreds of those units. And they're in different places have popped up. 2-story, 2 and 3 bedrooms, 1 car garage on the bottom, townhouses in a row. Another investor came in and said, I'll go get the money for them. We'll go ahead and build those. He went. The bank would not give him the money to build them because there's such a large saturation of those types of properties. So the townhouses that I have, what they had to do is they had to do a complete change. They are single story, and to keep the square footage up, they're a lot deeper. So they are 1,596 square feet. So they're 20 by 60, 20 by 80, 20 by 80. Size of a mobile home, but they're all connected, and there's 6 of them. But now that those are single story, they actually have a higher value than 2-story.
What was the rationale?
No stairs. I can go to the market of the older person or that has a knee issue with no stairs.
Or even people with kids.
And people with kids, and I don't like stairs either. I've like stumbled down a half a flight and caught the rail before in the middle of the night, and that's an eye opener, you know. So anyway, those things affect your market, and we are buffered because of Fort Rucker, quite a bit, but we're still not immune by any means. But then the types of things that are built, so you got to watch all of that stuff. Back to wholesaling, and I know what's appealing in the advertising of wholesaling is because they advertise it as you can do it with no experience, no money, no nothing. Just takes your time.
Yes.
You can get yourself in a bad way quickly because the biggest problem that I have had with wholesalers is their numbers are extremely way off. And it's a waste of my time. For you to be a wholesaler, your value is in working those numbers, making sure those numbers are right, and you're bringing me a deal. Here's the deal. Here's how much it's worth. Here's how much it's going to take to fix it. You've done all that legwork. You've done all that calculating and looked on Zillow or wherever, and you've come up with a rough number, and then we need to run those numbers even tighter. That's where your value comes in for me as a buyer. I don't mind paying you a wholesale fee if you've done all that other work.
Do you think people are just not even trying to look at your profit? But
Yeah. The numbers you find a deal, you think you can make 5 on it, but if you change this number and this number, you turned it to 10.
Yeah.
He said it before I did. You start thinking in your head, how can I turn this 5 into 10? Now you're taking the meat off the bone for me,
Absolutely.
but I'm the one taking all the risk.
Absolutely. We're
What
just
if I
trading
pop in
paper.
there and I find termites?
Right.
I have to budget to be able to allow for those things. So if you're as a wholesaler and you're trying to come in and make every single penny you can off the deal, you're not of value to me as a buyer. I don't mind at all paying a wholesale fee if you've earned it and you've done the work and you say, hey, I've got this deal. And I know, all right, I've dealt with this person before, I know the numbers are accurate. It's still on me to verify the numbers. But if I can spend a few minutes verifying the numbers versus starting over, if all you did was bring me, hey, look, I found this house and the grass has grown up in the front yard, I can find those all day long, just driving around. So there's no value to the buyer. Earlier you said what you liked about the creative was there was 3 ways to make money.
Right.
There are 3 ways to get paid. I look at it as there's 3 ways to help people. And I try to focus on that help
Right.
because I know a lot of the wholesaler stuff is I want to make this paper
Right.
and make this money.
Right.
You need to help people. What's his name? Old sales guy, Zig Ziglar. If you help enough other people get what they want, you can have whatever you want.
Right.
Start focusing on how can you find a house that a buyer would buy. You said you had a hard time finding buyers. Well, you didn't find the right deal.
Right. Right.
Now, these guys are probably selling you, hey, go get these houses under contract.
Oh, yeah.
What if you're putting a house under contract for somebody who's about to go to bankruptcy or something like that, and then you tie the house up, but you can't move it?
Right. And
You're not helping that person.
We had I know at one time we had like about 30 in one day and then couldn't move.
They weren't deals then.
They weren't.
It's easy to throw a piece of paper. You can tell me you got a house for sale for $100,000. I'll say, all right, I'll give you 110. Am I going to get the contract? Yeah. But am I going to find a buyer for it? No.
Right.
So that's what you were saying. They were saying, don't worry about the buyers, just get the houses under contract.
And it was in war zones. Nobody wanted to mess with it.
I like war zones.
But there, nobody wanted to touch it because I didn't.
They weren't a deal.
It wasn't a good deal.
So
Right.
who negotiated the contract?
It's a good deal. Somebody jump on it. Smart.
And what's so crazy is when I put this $5,000 out there, and I had this guy coaching me, and he was recommended by another guy. The first words out of his mouth was, "Well, we got to get you out of the Dothan Enterprise area. Let's start in Montgomery first."
Why?
Why? And aren't you from this area?
I am,
So you automatically start where you're from.
but
What's more from? I mean,
but me being a newbie and just trying to get into it, I'm thinking surely if I'm paying somebody, they know more than I know, and they're not going to steer me in the wrong
see,
direction.
that's why I keep saying you got to be careful of
Right.
who you invest in,
Right.
send your money to, because
Right.
you being from Dothan, you would know the neighborhoods.
And I learned that the hard way.
You know, like I told people, I never thought I would own a trailer park, but I definitely own one, and I own one in my hometown. That's a great place to own one at.
And you
because
know,
I'm from that place.
What
I
do
know
you
the
do
people.
when you lose your money and you go back home and you can't talk about it? You go close yourself up and you put your head in your hands and you're like, what in the world was I thinking? I know I had good thoughts, but I wasn't led in the right direction. And the longer I started doing it and getting back into it, it's relationships. And like Rob said, helping people. And it's like, let me get on Meetup. And that's what led me to here, because you can't always do it over this. You got to get out and meet people. You got to network. I trust who I can see versus somebody that's in cyberspace somewhere telling me, hey, give me $5,000. I'll make you a millionaire. It don't work like that.
I saw a book when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Took a trip to the Smokies and we were walking down one of the paths, and it was a little book that said how to make money. I thought it was weird laying on a path in the woods in the Smokies, but I picked it up, and I don't know where the picture's at now, but the people that I was with took a picture of me sitting on a rock at a waterfall in the Smokies and me reading this little paper pamphlet. Basically, what that book said was, tell other people you can teach them how to make money and they'll pay you.
Wow.
and it's still alive and true today,
Absolutely.
was that.
Absolutely.
And you see it. Send me $5,000 and I'll teach you. Some of them are worth it. Some of them aren't. The bigger picture here is, did you at least learn something out of your $5,000?
The sad part is, it wasn't just that one time, and it wasn't just $5,000, but it's like I tell anybody else I run into now, I chalk it up to paid education.
There you go. That's what I said to begin with. You're going to pay for it one way or another. You're going to drag it out, or you just want to be the Band-Aid and tear it off. So that's what me and my wife did. We went to a very expensive one, but they did bring a coach here. They had a list of coaches we could select from. One of them actually lives at Fort Campbell, which is Army base, a lot of similarities. Why we picked that guy. He came here, he spent a few days with us, we drove around. There's two sides of it. Once you become experienced and you know what you're looking for, you can pull up a map and pull up Zillow. We did it last week with your comp, the one street over, and it was $100,000 homes, and they gave you comps for the next street over because those were built in the 60s and 70s, and then the one street that we were looking at was built in the early 2000s. They were $160,000 homes, so literally next street over, $100,000 homes, $160,000 was what our average were, wasn't it? So after you're pretty experienced, you can look at that, and then you can drive into that community and spend a weekend. And you can nail it down pretty close to what's going on. So there's both sides of that. But if you're talking about somebody that's never been here and is just selling a wholesaling course, get these properties under contract, and then, because I've watched tons of videos, a lot of Max Maxwell and his wholesaling. One thing I did not want to do, and after I went to the course, first thing I did when I came back was I started calling every wholesaler sign that I could see, every bandit sign. Almost none of them answered the phone or called me back. Or it was a bad phone number. Why go through the work of going and putting these signs out and put them up, and then you're too scared to answer the phone when they call? Because that's one of the things that they teach. Call the wholesalers. Once you figure out what your buying criteria is, a wholesaler can save you time. There's only so much time in a day, and especially when you're talking about a small town like Enterprise, how many deals are out there right now? Today. There's a few. I've done a few, right? So there's still deals out there, but we also know by looking at the VA foreclosures and the day that they actually come on the market, if a house comes on the market and the day it comes on, it gets 12 offers, what does that tell you?
There ain't that many.
That's the first thing it tells you. Well, there's not that many where?
In this area.
Coming up on the MLS.
That's right. But there's still, right, that's not many in MLS, right?
Right.
There's some that's
Also
not.
tells you a lot of your investors are sitting around waiting for them to pop up on the MLS. They're not going out to find them.
And that's what's been going on, I'll say, in Enterprise, like the last 2.5 years that I've noticed. I mean, literally a house that hits the market the same day. Like he said, it's got 12 offers on it. Because everybody done told, a realtor done told that investor. So you get there, everybody ready to bid on it the first day. But like you said, that goes to show you that everybody is looking at that. So that's why you gotta create other ways and other means of.
Besides the MLS.
Because right now the MLS is what people, and they're looking on foreclosures.com, like, I look at it a couple times a day, so.
Yeah, I do more driving, because that's where I find my deals.
Really?
For dollars.
That's.
But it's work. Most investors either, some of them are full-time and they're constantly busy doing their deals, or they have full-time jobs and they're investing on the side, so they don't have time to find the deals and they just wait. And there are a few realtors that they're in contact with, and the realtor call them up and say, hey, I got a VA foreclosure that's coming up. It'll come up on the market Monday. Be ready to bid on it. Here's the address. I didn't give you this code, but here, go look at it.
That's it. There you go. You got it down.
I don't know how I figured that out. Right?
There's 12 was bidding on the same day. Yep.
So everybody's competing with each other for the same houses. But a wholesaler can go out and find a real deal because now the VA is smart. they know that if they put it on the market and it's below value, they'll get multiple offers on it that day, and they can sit there and pit each other against each other, right? And run that price up. So of the deals that I've done in the last year and a half, which hasn't been a ton, but I've lost count, I'm somewhere around 20, right? Between buying and selling and flipping and holding some. And I count if I buy it and I rehab it and sell it, that's 2 deals. All right, I bought it, that's a deal. I sold it, that's a deal, because I don't sell them all, right? So one of them was a VA foreclosure that I bought from the MLS. The only reason I got that one's the cat piss house. It came on the market. The guy had about 20 cats. It stunk. And when I say it stunk, I mean it stunk. Everything from the waist down in the house that was metal was rusted because the cats had sprayed. The cold air return rusted out. All of the outlets, copper doesn't rust, but everything else in the outlet was rusted. The fireplace, the little, what do you call that hangs in front of the fireplace? Keep the little curtain, completely rusted out. So that one was a VA foreclosure. It came on the market. It went under contract. The contract fell through. It went back on market. When it was under contract a second time, that contract fell through. And then it had been back on the market for the third time and been there for a while. And what scared everybody away, and I literally was looking at one, and I told the realtors, when you walk up and you have a code for a house and you're not a realtor, they want to know who you are. So anyway, she found out that 450 Chalk Hills. I said, because she was trying to qualify me. She wanted to know who I was. And how many deals have you done? I was like, well, I did Chalk Hills. Everybody knew that house. But she had told me that she took a client in, she took one step in, turned around, walked back out, and literally threw up.
Yeah, I bought a house like that before.
I love it. That's my favorite. You guys find one of them, call me. You ain't got to go in it, just call me. I got a respirator if I need it. That's part of my kit. I have flashlight, respirator, gloves. Yeah, I'm going.
Bags.
Yeah. And people will tell you can't negotiate with a VA. Wrong. I did not pay asking. And that coach that came here went to look at that house with me. And he told me, this is what to offer this many % below what they're asking. Even the realtor said they won't accept it. He said, don't listen to him, offer it. Got accepted. So there's a difference between people who've done it, people who are actively doing it, and people who are selling a course. And it's hard to sniff those out without putting your money out there to figure it out.
Absolutely.
And that's why I say that company has been shut down, but they still had good coaches, and I don't know if maybe some of the other ones weren't. I don't know what the deal is. I know I got my money's worth out of it. So you brought up some creative stuff. Let's talk about that for a second. You said you hated being a landlord. Why?
Because I didn't do it right.
All right, well, what'd you not do right that you know of?
It was mobile home park. And as you know, it's good luck getting property management for that. Around here anyway. It was the headache of constantly getting the calls at nighttime. You're thinking, hey, look, I'm just gonna get this up, get it rented out, and then you're not even taking into account vacancy rate. People moving out 2, 3 in the morning. You know, a guy came to me one time and said, hey man, your whole row back there just moved out. Just like that. Because new lease agreements came up. They were basically, before I came in, able to do whatever they wanted to do. Cops were there all the time. Constant complaints. Nobody really wanted to be there, but it was so cheap to live there. They were like, hey, I'm just gonna put up with it. I came in, put down new rules, new regulations, redone the lease agreement. This is how it's gonna be. Everybody's going, and it's like, you get this money used to coming in, and then half of it's gone, 60%'s gone, 75%'s gone, and it's like,
Sounds
It wa-
familiar.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I bought a trailer park that was in foreclosure, and it was mad, police stayed there.
It was just,
So-
I had no clue what I was doing. It was the very first thing, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was not driven by really wanting to learn real estate at that time. I was driven by wanting to get out of my job at that time.
So that, I think that had a lot to do with how your success.
Absolutely.
How everything.
So I looked at things totally different then than I do now. Just like Rob said, when you start rethinking of, okay, this isn't a house, it's a situation. So let me go in and learn what the situation is. And if I can help these people out of their situation, then ultimately they're going to help me out of mine. But I'm bringing two people together on a buyer and a seller, and maybe you're helping the bank out. Maybe you're helping a GC out over here. It's a lot of people, when you get burned so many times, it forces you to kind of rethink and say, okay, what did I do wrong? It was money driven. It was all money driven. It had nothing to do with helping anybody. It was all to do with helping me. And in the process, it hurt me and then hurt everybody else that I had. Because when you put somebody's house under contract, that's what they do. It's a thank God. I'm finally going to get out of this situation. That's not what I was looking at. My coach was like, I don't care if you get 100. Let's get 100 under contract. What about the buyer? Don't worry about the buyers. Let's send it. What you got? What do your numbers look like? Send the numbers in. Get the numbers back. Oh yeah, that's great. Offer this. Then they're lowballing the EMD. You know, they're, hey, put $5 down. $5. Yeah, put $5 on every one of them. That's gonna hold it. And then you gotta turn around and tell these people, yeah, I know we got this clause. I know I can get out of the contract, but I'm not trying to put it under contract to turn around and get back out of it. I wasn't thinking that back then. Biggest part of my demise in the beginning was my mindset. That's what messed me up, my mindset. And not really trying to understand my own backyard, but taking what people were telling me that I thought would not steer me wrong and say, hey, they've been doing this for years. And then have a guy a couple months ago tell me the same thing Rob did. Be careful of these people offering courses because they're real. Even real estate investors out there will tell you most investors make the bulk of their money offering courses than they are creating offers. So I'm very leery of courses now. That's why I'm trying to get out and actually be face to face with you guys and talk to people and learn it, because it's way more than anybody can teach on a course. And to be honest with you, one wholesale course is the same as the 20th you buy. The 100th, they're selling the same stuff.
I just think you just gotta hold to some wrong people, because like I've been doing
That's
this
it.
for almost 13 years, and that's what people keep asking me for, and they keep asking me for a course, and I see people doing it all
Right.
the time, and I don't want nobody to think like, you know, oh, I have a track record. They could go back and look, and they can
Right.
see all the deals I've done in the years,
Right.
and all the things I've done. You just gotta hold to the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had to pay that kind of money up front, I tell people, if you gotta pay that kind of money up front for certain stuff, and you know that's already your answer right there. You shouldn't
Right.
be investing in something and putting out money like that you can't afford to lose.
Right.
That's my personal opinion.
Right.
When you're looking at these courses.
Right.
That you shouldn't take on.
And you
anything
know,
like that.
when you're in a situation of, when you're in a financial strain of, because I took all my retirement. I pulled my retirement to put into it. Every last cent of it, gone. What do? I look at it as, I paid for the education. I'm still hurting, but I'm not gonna lose it. I'm gonna get that back, but I gotta do it the right way this time. So I could have easily, like I did, I never really gave up. I kind of just had to get my mind right. My mind wasn't right. And now when you've lost not only the money you already had coming in, but your entire retirement, I couldn't go back home. and talk about that kind of stuff. It's kind of like, okay, you got to get back to the grind. You know what real estate is capable of. You've had a taste of it. You got around the wrong people. And if my mindset would have never changed, I wouldn't be sitting right here right now. I wouldn't. I'd still be chasing dollars and end up broke in the process. And just like you say, everybody is conditioned now. Course. And all of these courses are teaching you how to be lazy. Don't network. Everything can be done online. You don't have to really get out and meet people. You can you can do a contract in California. You ain't got to leave your house. You don't have to drive for dollars.
They're selling the dream. They're not selling the work.
Absolutely.
You don't
That's
get
the
them.
reality.
Yeah.
The real reality
Right.
behind it.
They got that commercial now where, what is it, Alexa, find me more houses or more, have you seen that?
I hadn't seen that one yet.
It's Alexa, find me more deals.
I hadn't seen that one.
Oh, my
And a drone flies out and looks for some houses.
You got to have a Samsung Smart TV for them to pick up that you're in real estate and play that commercial for you.
I'm glad my smart TV ain't picked that one up.
Oh, it will. You think your phone ain't listening to us right now?
It's coming.
You're going to get hit with courses before you get home today. All they hear is courses. Funny. A little bit on what you talked about.
Yes.
We're going to talk a lot. I don't know how much we're going to get into it today, but creative financing is where it's at, especially if you're going into a down market. Banks tighten up. They start freaking out. They stop loaning money so easy. So when your market's really going down, the creative financing is, I like it as much as possible, but especially when the market's going down. So I have tried to get my hands on some trailer parks. So far, have not had any success. They've been close.
Are you want to try to park?
I want all.
Okay. I mean, I work with, my banks, they look out for, anything with a trailer park, they always, like you called me yesterday, telling me about another trailer park and stuff. So.
This coach that I had, all right, so he told me when we was going through the class that, cause there was like 10 people in our class, right? And he had a set number of homework things that you had to do in order to have access to him, and you could have access to him for up to 2 weeks. But there was certain homework things, and I mean, it was like we really had to hustle to get it all done. It was putting out bandit signs, and you had to, because people had faked the bandit signs and stuff, you had to go and put out a bandit sign in an area that he described of how to do it, so it kind of taught you how to do it right, and then you had to take a picture of it, and you had to text it to him, and you had to do 5 of those, and you had to do 5 babysitter signs, which is where my first deal came from, over by Harvest House on Kendallwood. That house came from a babysitter sign that was in the library in Dothan.
Wow.
The siblings that inherited the house saw the babysitter sign, called us, and that's how that deal happened.
Wow.
From the homework from this coach. But there was a certain bit of criteria that you had to do, and that gave you access to him for 2 more weeks. And after that, another way that I had access to him was, like I said, he taught twice a month. So if I had a deal that I was working on that was complicated or strange or whatever, because the classes, they would always do them Thursday through Sunday. So I would send him a text on Wednesday night and say, hey, are you teaching this weekend? And here's what I've got going on. Or I just had a deal, or something motivational, something that I could offer for the class, right? So it was a benefit to the class. And then my benefit was I got to ask a question and he could answer it for the class and answer it for me at the same time, right? So that was kind of our workaround on me having access to this guy. So I did that several times on multiple deals, and then multiple times while calling, he would say to the class, this is somebody that went through the class 3 months ago or 6 months ago or whatever it was, this time went by, is in the same position as you, but he did the homework, and I'd usually tell him about the first deal, so it was a little bit of motivation. And then he would say, he's the only one that did the homework. And he said that in the class when we were there in the beginning. I already know that 90% of people in this room will never do a deal. I mean, they knew that going in. Didn't matter how much money you paid for the class. Most people go to the class and hoping they were going to get a magic bullet or a secret or something. The information is not that hard to figure out. It does help to have the course and learn some things where you don't wind up have clauses in your contract, so if you find termites or something, you're not losing 50 grand on your first deal. But they already knew it was only about 10% of people were actually going to do a deal. Now, because of that, later on, after I did more deals and helped his class, he finally told me one day, he called me up. He said, I'm going to tell you something and you didn't hear this from me. What are you doing this weekend? I don't have anything planned. So you need to go to Tampa and you need to go to see this guy. Remember in the class when I said I have a mentor and I have a coach? Yeah, this is mine. And they do 4 or 6 classes a year. And it's not a course where it's thousands of dollars. They get a hotel conference room and it's $500 to $800 for the whole weekend. So that's who I have now. You're talking about is just a course, and then there's more layers and more layers and more layers. That's where I've been going. There's a guy that goes to almost every one of those classes. He's from California, and all he deals with is mobile homes.
Oh, wow.
And the last one I went to was in Atlanta. I had looked at a mobile home on my way to Atlanta, a mobile home park. And I went and I looked, and I didn't get his name before. His name is Andy. But when I walked into the hotel, I saw him sitting, because this group of people it's like so many repetitive people go, and it's the same people, and it starts kind of becoming an own little group. When you walk in the hotel, find a hotel bar and just listen. And you're going to hear contracts, real estate, interest rates. You just walk through the bar and tell who the investors are. But he was there. And I sat and talked to him the entire night, and then multiple times through the whole weekend, just talking about mobile homes, what he buys. And here is how to eliminate. This is just one example. Again, I haven't done this, but the only thing he buys is single unit mobile home parks, meaning buy land with a mobile home on it, not 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, piece of land, mobile home on it, owner finance the mobile home to the person and rent them the land underneath it. That's all he does. He has no overhead whatsoever. He has no upkeep. You don't have to worry about people moving out in the middle of the night because you finance the home to them. They're not in a mobile home park, so there's high amounts of crime because it's so cheap and they're stacked on top of each other. I've talked to some other investors in Dothan when I was looking at this other mobile home park that we were considering. The guy had an 80 some odd unit mobile home park, and he had told me he wants to invest in another one. He had a partner. His partner wanted out. So they sold out. He's actively looking for a big unit or a bigger size, and I called him and asked him his opinion about this deal that I was looking at. It was 8 mobile homes, 10 lots, but it could have been expanded to like 12 or 15 or something like that. And he instantly went into what he would do, what he wouldn't do, and that was on my way to that weekend with a guy that does nothing but 100% mobile home parks, and I picked his brain all weekend long. And now I have his phone number. So it is networking, right? At that same weekend, I was talking to a lady from California, and I told her I had bought a house in Dothan. I paid $17,000 for it, and it was renting for $425,000. She said, "I want to punch you in the throat." Not even close. That's 2.4 or 2.6% return.
Really?
So now you're talking about buyers.
Wow.
when I go to these meetings, I meet these people, and I brag about my good deals because they want to punch me in the throat. So I called her up. I was like, hey, I've been thinking about your punch me in the throat comment. Right? Yeah, well, I didn't mean it. I was like, I know, but what you really meant was you want some of these deals, right? Well, yeah, here's what I'm working on. Are you interested? Because she is a note buyer. So when you start getting into creative financing and you buy a property and you owner financed the property to someone, then you can turn around and sell that note so that if you need money quickly, you can finance the property out and then sell the note.
Really? Did not know that.
What do you think your banks do?
Wow.
Anybody bought a house from Bank of America and ever?
Wow.
In 6 months, it's sold.
Really?
Yeah, they do sell their notes down there, they do.
6 months.
Really?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah, Bank of America.
You get more money on it the older it is, right? If it's 6 months, it's 6 months seasoned, they can get more money for it. If it's a year and it's been paying on time for a year, then you can get more money on it. One of the people that I met at that unit or at that meeting, it was March of last year, creating tax-free wealth or tax-free wealth using tax strategies, tax strategies and wealth, tax-free, right? One of the people I met at that event lives in Texas. This was last March, and he was at 380 some odd notes that he owned. In his self-directed IRA, he showed me a breakdown, $77,000 a month after paying his lenders, tax-free.
Wow.
How do you do that?
Wow.
Understanding the laws, self-directed IRAs, using your IRAs to buy the properties, the money goes back into the IRA and the IRS doesn't touch it. That's the kind of level of people that I spend my money to go see now, but I never would have even known about those people if I hadn't paid the big money to go to the beginner course. So now you pay $500-600 for a whole weekend, and the difference is, like when I went to Vegas for the big event, the money that I paid for, that included you could go to Vegas as many times as you want, and then 4 times a year at their home office in Salt Lake City. They had advanced courses. All of that stuff was included. But when we went to Vegas, the number one question people asked was, have you done a deal yet? And over 50% of the time, the answer was no. But then going to these other events, the number one question was, is this your first PEAT event? And the second question was, are you full-time yet? And more than half the room is full-time real estate investors. They do not have jobs. If you think about the difference in the mindset of the people in that room versus the people who just bought a course hoping that this is my life savings, this has got to work, I'm basing it on the sales pitch, here's everything I've got, versus, well, there's 16 different ways to get out of that pickle that you're in, or different ways to sell it, or owner finance it, or what am I going to do? Because I'm going to tell you something, if it's less than $80,000, you can owner finance it pretty quick in almost every situation. They sell quick. I've sold 2 last year in a week. And for those of you that were here last month with Colby, he thought he had that one sold because I gave him some advice on how to post that. The guy started blowing him off, and I told him, I said, he said he had pulled it down off Facebook, and I said, well, why did you take it down to begin with? Well, the guy said he wanted it. You got to sign contract and earn his money. No. Put it back up. Well, I don't know, man. This guy's telling me, he really wants it, and he's going to put this much money down, and he's going to do this work, and I really kind of like the guy. And I said, there's where you're messing up right there. Yeah, you're emotional. It's okay to like the guy, but don't mix emotion with the deal. Well, I called him, and it went straight to voicemail. I said, all right, fine. Call him, text him, send him a message on Facebook, then repost the ad. Because he will get a notification where it was posted. When you took it down, it went pending. He gets a notice of that. When you put it back up as relisted, he'll get a notice of that too, and he'll let him know you're serious. Well, he didn't say anything. He called me yesterday and he was like, hey, I reposted that and I've got somebody in New York that wants to write me a check for $4,000 for the down payment and they want to close on it next week. I was like, oh, you finally posted it back up. But it's about a week. If it's a good deal, if it's owner finance and if it's a low purchase price, you can usually move them in about a week. Then there's all the other options that you've got that goes along with owner financing when you're not dealing with a bank. I'll give you an example of a deal that didn't happen, but it could have happened if the buyer would have done it. I've got a property that I've got owner finance, or I've got a private money lender on. So I had this property. This lady had a house. She wanted $80,000 for this house after we rehabbed it. It was about an $80,000 house. The $80,000 one that the lady wanted to sell was a much bigger house, but it needed a lot of work. So she was wanting to downsize. It had a swimming pool and 2 stories and 3 or 4 bedrooms. And it was laid out weird, so we could have turned it into a 5-bedroom pretty easy. So we probably would have been closer to about a $200,000 house after it was rehabbed. Well, I called my private money lender and I said, hey, what if I can get this lady to trade? Would you move your note from the $80,000 rehab to the $80,000 pre-rehab? Yeah. Would a bank do that?
No.
But that could have been an easy swap. Now, she went to the house and she didn't like it, so it didn't happen. But the possibility was there to make that deal happen because private money was more secure in having the same amount of money tied up in a house that would have been worth closer to $200,000. But you couldn't do that with a bank. But you can do that in a week with private money because all it takes is a piece of paper drawn up by the attorney that normally they can do in a day or 2. Sometimes they take 2 months. Miscommunications. Thought it was sent out. It wasn't sent out. $129.50 though is what it costs to record a mortgage at the courthouse in Houston County. It's not very much. You have options when you're not dealing with a bank, and the guy I'm talking about, Pete, they call them pretender lenders because they don't really lend you money. They create a document, you sign it, then they sell it. But it goes back to relationships and learning different options of ways to minimize your risk. Another thing that the guy that owned the trailer park in Dothan, 80-something units, said, people will move out on a Friday night. You won't know they're gone till Monday. It's common. They'll sign 1-year leases. They'll be there 3 months and disappear. It's common. But that's how the guy that I told you that I met at the events changes that because he makes it an owner finance and they have to put enough money down to where they think twice before they just bounce in the middle of the night. Another thing that he said he would do is he would make the lots bigger and put fences around every one of them to provide that protection, because another one of the things that when you have somebody that moves out, the teenage neighbor kids will break into them and you'll go in there and there'll be condoms and beer bottles. Build fences. So that's just things that he's learned. But the owner finance, and that's a very, very strong thing. And a lot of people get their head wrapped around, they don't want to do an owner finance because they feel like they need the money up front. Well, that's okay, because here's something else you can do with a note. You don't have to sell the whole thing. I know people who will buy a year's worth of payments. So you did a deal, you need $5,000 to make another deal happen. Well, you can sell $5,000 worth of payments to somebody.
Really? Wow.
The guy that I just talked about, he doesn't even deal in real estate anymore. He just buys notes. That's all he does.
Wow. Wow. Crazy.
But these are full-time guys, and that's what they do. It's more of for a lot of them, it's more of just fun. What can I create? Because wealth is created. It's hard to save it. I know I couldn't save what I created in the last 18 months. I created 3 times more than what we make.
In the last 18 months.
I bought an excavator last month. and I had to turn in a personal financial statement, updated one. Couldn't find one. My wife was asleep. I got the email, hey, I need this. So I'm digging, I'm trying to look through the computer, and I find an old one. Well, I find an old one from June of last year. And our net worth was just basically from our townhouses. We had just built our house, so we had no worth there. And I don't list cars and golf clubs and all that crap on my financial statements. That doesn't count. But I looked at it, and then I went through and I did our new one. And from June of 18 until last month, we increased by $500,000 in net worth. $503,000 was the difference. I was like, that was a good day. I hadn't really counted it or anything, but I got a whiteboard in my bathroom, and I got my yearly goals and my daily tasks that I kind of write on there, and I had written down what I wanted my net worth to be by the end of the year, and I had met it in November. So I didn't really think too much else about it, and I didn't realize also what it was in June of last year until I pulled up that old financial statement. So I go into the bank because I called. I didn't know if they do that. They finance equipment. Yeah, we finance equipment. I was like, you finance used equipment? So a lot of them don't even do used. Yeah, we'll do that. So I sent over my financials, and I go in the next day to sit down and sign the paperwork. So I go in, I sign everything, and things looking good, and it's at Trinity Bank, and she says, hey, your real estate business is really kind of blowing up. Huh? I said, it's doing all right. She's like, no, I mean, we've got your financials that you sent from last year, and I kind of pulled them up and compared them, and I was like, yeah.
It's on now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I said, well, I heard y'all just got bought out or whatever, merged with River. I also heard you guys River's really trying to push you guys to loan more money in this area. Yeah, they are. I said, all right, I'll see you next year. Mm-hmm. But that's a relationship. And they watch that stuff. They don't care about my report card, but they care about that financial statement. But I thought that was interesting when you got the vice president of the bank saying, I was looking at your financials. You're doing pretty good. So we bought the $42,000 course from that company. And that's why I say you get out of it what you put into it. Was there other things that I could have bought that was cheaper that would have produced the same result? Yeah, but I didn't know what they were. The other benefit of it too was my wife went with me, so I didn't have that resistance of, what are you doing? What are you spending money on? What is this? What? Right? First house that we did in Dothan, after we went through the course, I pulled up in the driveway and looked at it. I said, there it is. And she said, don't look too bad. Brick house. How many bedrooms? 4? 2 bath? Yeah. Let's go eat. So it eliminated that. I don't know, that's risky. It's not risky if you know what you're doing. If you got your clauses in there and your exit strategies and you know how you want to get out. We had 3 different exit strategies on that house before we put it under contract. And we took the first one because it came up first. But we had 2 other options on that house of how we could handle it and move it and profit on it. Somebody else talk for a minute. Anybody got anything they want to add? Any houses? Anybody looking at anything? Last month after we got done, we went and looked at yours.
Yeah. And the guy's still calling me.
Why is that?
Because he have 2 other houses.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him I couldn't move those houses either unless he dropped his price. And he still, and I just got a message a few minutes ago. He told me to call him, so.
So he's ready to drop the price maybe.
Yeah, I hope. But I wanna know more about the lease option that you was talking about, the
And I definitely
hotel.
want no trailer park.
Yeah.
Conference. I need to attend.
Well, it's not a conference for trailer parks. It's just a guy that attends these conferences that we go to, right?
But don't you say something about a weekend that you?
It is a weekend, but it's not specifically for trailer parks. Like, all right, the next one coming up, I don't have the list. The next one coming up is in February, and it's Captains of the Deal, and it's a 9-day cruise.
Wow.
You spend 3 or 4 hours in the morning or something like that. They've got it scheduled out of class time, so it's all tax deduction because they count all of this stuff together. The next one after that is in March, and it's the same. It's the self-directed IRA course. That's in March. It's in Atlanta. And then in April is the How to Become a Private Money Lender course. Hard money lender course.
But what about the guy with the trailer park? You said that.
He just attends these meetings and networks with everybody. And then he don't put one on, but here's the value in the networking.
You need somebody there.
Okay, so the first one I went to, I learned, stay an extra night and get there a night early. Because the class starts in the morning, most of the people are flying in. These people are from all over. There's one guy that comes almost to every meeting from China just to go to this guy's classes.
Wow.
And so this who happened to.
Peter Fortunato. F-O-R. Yeah, I knew that was coming.
F-O-R.
T-U. Is it T-U? Let me double check here. I'm going to pull it up. Fortunato. And he says, you know how some people say that you're so tight you squeak when you walk? He said, I grind. He's got one tie. That's it. Paper course is sold out. So I haven't been to the paper course yet. That's the deal after the deal. And he talks about all the different stuff you can do after the deal. This guy is so over the top. That class that I went to, he sat there, he said, anybody have an example of any realtors in the room who have a house that is listed, it's over market? Yeah, give me the example. And he worked out through the example of doing creative stuff, going to, in Tampa, they have an exchange. They don't just have meetup groups, REI meetups, they have an exchange group, separate. You come into the group, and I would like to get this group big enough to where we can do that. There's a board, and you go in there and put up on the board what you have. If you got a house you want to sell, if you got a house you want to wholesale, if you got a note you want to sell, or if you've got $10,000 and you want to invest, whatever it is that you have gets listed on one side of the board, and on the other side of the board you list whatever you want. And they make deals with each other. And he went through the whole process about how he bought a house, he overpaid for it, but he didn't overpay for it because he did a couple other deals with other people because you needed 10 grand cash to do a deal. Somebody else wanted to invest 15, and he went and borrowed this literally in the room. He said people be sitting there writing down notes on, all right, well, I can do this or I can do that. And he said, I didn't write down anything. I just started talking to people. I watched who would write what on the board, and I would talk to him during the meeting. By the end of the meeting, he flew to Washington, D.C. to go to this once a month, and he always paid for his airfare, his hotel, and made money at every meeting. But just going and solving problems for people. That's the people that come to those meetings. I went to that first one. I guess the number one question, well, who are you? Is this your first event? Because most of them have been over and over and over. And the instructor that told me there, he said he had been to the same event 5 times, and on the 5th time he was able to keep track by lunchtime on Sunday. But it was still went over his head by then. Because you get into some really complicated stuff. But Pete said he's allergic to 2 things, work and taxes. Work and taxes. Don't like either one of them. But his network is big enough now that he doesn't have to go looking for houses. People bring them to him because he's so well known. People find deals. He'll buy a house. He loans his own. He's a private money lender himself, but he only does in Pinellas County in Florida. He limits it to that county as far as his private money lending. But we went to that first event, and at the end of it, they kicked us out of the hotel because they had to get it ready for the next class or next whatever that was coming in. And he was like, all right, anybody that's staying the night, you guys can all come to my house. I was like, we're leaving. What is this? But a lot of great stories about creative deals. He does a lot of options. He does a lot of options where he'll sell a house with an option to purchase it back in 10 years at different amounts, same amount, more, less, whatever, just depending on the deal. He talks a lot about those and just getting creative. And I think he said he's only ever exercised like 1 or 2 of those options, right? But he's able to trade those options. And that's where you get into getting away from using banks and getting into working with other investors.
And that's what I want to get more into, like networking and being able to work with other investors and
Yeah.
do deals.
Well, another good thing is just like with the MLS and the investors that are waiting for the deals to pop up, I can't even hardly find attorneys to do the deals, because when you start talking to attorneys about subject twos or lease options, a lot of them aren't even familiar with it and they won't touch what they don't know.
Yeah.
But you got to play a lot of golf. It's part of it. I got a guy in Dothan that I'm playing golf with, and he was like, I don't understand it, but so I'm looking for a solid sub-2 deal that makes enough money that, and I think I've got one. Last weekend I stumbled up on one. The guy that was telling me about this, his attorney charges $2,500 per quarter hour to teach another attorney how to do it legally and correctly. The last one that she did, he said it took him 16 minutes and the bill was $5,000. Because if you go over 15 minutes, it's another $2,500.
So that's 10,000 an hour?
Yeah. Is that a lot of money?
Not if you're making
All right, so now we're thinking right? You calculate that into the deal, and that's why I hadn't just went ahead and said do it. I'm looking for the deal to make it worth messing with. It's not that complicated. It's just, again, attorneys especially are not going to mess with something they don't understand. And I'm not going to put the money out there until I've got a deal lined up that's going to work. And Bill Bronchek on YouTube has several videos. He's an attorney, and he talks about sub-2 deals. And you can kind of get the attorney on board and figure, all right, here's what's in the Garn-St. Germain Act and da-da-da-da-da, and irrevocable direction letter, moving the property into a trust. And this is all things that you do to keep from triggering the due on sale clause that's been in every mortgage since the 80s or something when they changed that.
You ever known of anybody to call that loan due?
Okay, the guy that I told you that came here, he said he does on average 5 to 6 sub-2 deals at Fort Campbell every year. Almost all of them are military people who he's talked to. They said no, and they call him up the night before they're leaving, because you're in the military, when you got to leave, you got to leave. There's no adjusting, right? It's that day. He said almost all of them are within 24 hours of them leaving town. A lot of them are that night. So he has what's the notary public lined up that he can use at night anytime. Costs $100 to use her. He said that one time he got a notice of calling loan due. So he I don't remember who he said it was, but he went through his files and he had like 20 of them with that bank. They didn't even realize it. So they sent him a letter, and he called him up, and he got everything together, and he's like, hey, I got this notice. Yeah, you've taken over this mortgage and blah, blah, blah. utilizing due on sale clause, you owe us, blah, 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 you need to close it now. He said, all right, well, that's fine, I can do that. But if you're gonna do that, you need to take these other 19. Well, I've got 19 more exactly like it, and we need to close all these out. They sent him a letter and told him, don't worry about it, just keep sending the checks. Banks don't want to do that. They put that in there to protect themselves because it says they may. But they may do a due on sale clause because you get divorced. They may trigger the due on sale clause for a number of different reasons, not just because it's been moved to a trust or it's been sold on a bond for title or whatever the case may be. There's a whole slew of different reasons why they can. It's very, very rare that it does happen. If it does happen and you can't get out of it because you don't have 19 others, and then that's when you start making phone calls to people like me and see if I can't find somebody that might want to buy it and just move it. If there's equity there, move it. Get it gone. If you wind up and you've made deals and, through your whole course of the time of helping other people out, you find yourself in a situation, pass that equity on to somebody else and get out of it. I mean, we're kind of supposed to help each other out. That's what I was saying earlier about there's not a whole lot of deals in enterprise, but there's enough to keep us busy. We don't have to fight with each other over deals and bid at each other and bid up prices to VA 80% of retail. There's no reason to do that.
Wow.
We can work together on that stuff. You can tell pretty quick when you talk to another investor if they're team players or if they have a scarcity attitude. I called several when I started getting into it, and it was either, because a lot of times it'll happen, you have no deals and you're just waiting and you're looking for one and you're grinding, you're driving for dollars and you're trying to find there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden you've got 5. Right? Boom. So then what do you do with those? So if you are connected with a group of investors and they wind up, there's the same way for them, all of a sudden they might just pass one, instead of calling it wholesaling, you know what they call it?
What's that?
Passing it through.
I think that word has just been tarnished.
That's why they use a different word, and that's, if you don't use that word, you're a wholesaler.
Wow. I did not know that. Wow.
Sometimes sometimes there's a few of us, and we either have none or we have too many, and we don't mind passing one through. We know you're gonna make $5,000 on it, or we want to make $5,000 on it. $5,000's the number. If you make $5,000 on a wholesale deal, take it, move on, leave some meat on the bone, get the next one.
Wow.
If you make 20 on it, and then the person that you sell it to makes 5, they're not gonna buy another one from you.
Absolutely not. Wow. Wow.
Yep. Let's take a break.
Because I live on this side of the road and I'm dope, and my neighbor right in front of me is Houston County. So it's crazy how they have it zoned out.
Anybody got anything they want to sell, April?
Oh, yes. I have a house on 208 Spiner Street. That's the one I'm talking about.
208 Spiner. You spell that? How you spell that, April?
20 Spiner, Speigener Street. And another question since we're in here, have anybody had to deal with natural springs in our yard?
Is that Dothan Enterprise?
Yeah. Natural springs.
Did I spell that right?
A little bit. I had one underneath my pool. It kept pushing up the pool liner, so they had to put a sump pump in there, and it just keeps
Okay,
it.
well, I got 3 sump pumps underneath the house, but I still got 1 or 2 spots, 3 spots in the backyard. Really?
Yeah.
That's underneath the house. And then I still got 2 or 3, but that whole area, everybody house on that whole road has natural springs where it's located.
Yeah.
And mine's is in a couple back, I have like 3 spots in the backyard, and that's the house I want to put on the market in the spring, but I'm worried about those.
Did I spell that right?
The only times people I know that have problems if it's underneath the house, if the sump pump goes out and it just fills up with water and mold builds up and everything. So
But the house been totally reversed, the board, totally.
What did the AFS?
SP? April. Did I spell that right?
I'm looking, I can't hardly see.
SP?
E-I-G-N-E-R.
That's what I put.
Street or court?
Yeah.
Or circle?
It's giving me Geneva, not Enterprise.
Enterprise.
Over here, that's down. Not too far. Let's just turn around the corner. Oh, I see. Yeah, there is the water going.
It's not coming up on Zillow.
Shows.
All right, so tell everybody about it.
It's on relative.
Oh, it's on Realtor?
Like I said, I had to go in and put I had to put it back on the market
Get
since I had AFS
Realtor.com?
and the foundation thing. But I still got the 3 or 4 springs. I could have sold the house. When they listed, 2 or 3 people wanted to buy it, but then when they found out about the springs, that's before I called AFS, they were all nervous. But then I turned around and called AFS, and I was getting ready to put it on the market again in March. But I wanted to see about getting somebody to check on the backyard, those spots I got in the backyard before I put it on the market again. Because when I put it on the market the first week, I had 2 or 3 people that wanted it because I totally renovated it.
And this was, you said this was their first one? Was this your first one that you bought?
No. I've been doing this for 12, 13 years now. This is the first one I ever bought with natural springs. The first time I ever bought a house with natural springs.
Okay.
First time I ever bought a house with natural springs.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Is there a pond there?
No, it's everybody has the big, what you call it, the big,
Drainage
the drainage
canal.
go through,
Mm.
Okay.
yeah. The house been totally gutted, new wiring, new plumbing, new everything.
And what were they nervous about? I mean, it's
Because-
draining into the ditch, right?
It's draining into the ditch, but it had moisture under the house when I first listed. And so I had to get AFS to come out there and put
Vapor barrier?
all that and then the 3 sump pumps underneath the house. So it's dry under there now. But in the yard, there's 1 or 2, 3 little natural spring spots. So I was scared to put it back on the market because I wanted it to be gone this time. You see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to make sure I do everything right before I list it again,
Right.
so it'll be gone this time.
So the mushy spots in the yard, in the grass,
Yeah.
and you can see water pools.
Yeah, you can see the little pool. Yeah, if you stick your feet in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want for it.
If somebody buy it today, tomorrow, I'll sell it for 110. But when I had it listed for 120 something because it's gonna appraise for about 131. Somebody just sold one around the corner from me for 132, and theirs is near not like mine. They did some updates, but mine's got all the brand new things, the appliances. I mean, I totally revamped everything new in mine.
So
New
based-
plumbing, new AC.
Based on the one comp, you're looking at about 130.
Yes.
But you're saying yours is better,
Oh yeah.
and
Totally
you're wanting
everything.
how much?
If somebody buy it today, 110.
Is that a cash price? Now, because we're talking about creative stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about a cash price.
Well, what about owner finance?
But how much money I'm gonna get up front? That's what I didn't know. I want
Do you listen to the conversation I've been having with this guy?
But this is the thing. I'm trying to get.
This is reality, okay?
But
This is
see, when you said that, that's what made me think about. Well, hey, he may have somebody can get me out of it. I can get my 110. They can do whatever they want to do. Let me have
Okay.
money to pay off the bank. Give me the difference from that.
how much you owe the bank.
I owe the bank probably about 75, 80.
Okay, so now we got some numbers we can work with, right? When you're trying to do owner financing, your first response from the seller is almost always going to be, I just need my money.
That's it.
I want my cash.
That's right. I want to be able to take it and go do something else.
Why?
Well, I just look at it that I could take what I have in that house currently with all the equity and stuff I have vested in that house. I can take my money and I can go put it in my trailer park and do, you know, and create another $2,000-3,000 a month income.
So what do you need to do in your trailer park?
Well, first of all, I told you about the 3 storage units. I stage houses, so I have 3 trailers that's full of furniture. Okay, that's what rent would be on those 3 trailers is about $1,600 in Geneva, $1,500 to $1,600. So that I'm using as complete storage. Well, it's the way my property is set up at the trailer park. I could build me a nice big unit back there to put all my furniture in, and it wouldn't even take away from the trailer park. The way I can put it in this corner over here and still add to my trailer park, but I'm not, and I won't borrow no money. I can go borrow money tomorrow. I don't want to do that. I want to do it with the deals I make, taking half of it, reinvesting the other half, putting back. And so that's why I said I want to do the cash. So that's what I need to do on my trailer park.
What did we learn right there? She started out with I need cash, but what she really needs is she's got a problem. She needs a pole barn that's closed in so she don't have to pay for storage, so she can empty out 3 trailers to make more revenue. That's how you make deals happen, where she started out wanting 110 cash, I need it right now, today or tomorrow, to she needs 65 to pay off the loan with the bank. But there's some leeway there because she just doesn't want to borrow money. So do I know people who build pole barns? Yeah. They just built a deck on the back of my house off Rucker Boulevard. So instead of traditional, and when we get into when the economy's going down, instead of just traditional, all right, now I'm gonna go to the bank, I'm gonna get a loan from the bank, that's another mortgage on my credit, which limits me in a number of mortgages that I can have, and buying the house outright from you, my wheels start turning towards how can we empty out your 3 mobile homes, convert those into rentals. Where can we put the stuff that's in there? Where do you want it? Do you want it in Dothan? Do you want it in Enterprise?
I really want it in Geneva because it's at my trailer park and I want to, you know what I'm saying, I can build.
So the pole barn idea would be a solution that would work for you. You can put it back out of the way. It doesn't need septic. It doesn't need electric.
I mean, I would like to have it have electric.
All right, see?
You can cut on the light.
See, I asking questions.
But you get what I'm saying? So that's why money is involved. Because I would like for it to have a light because eventually, like every twice a year, I have a big furniture sale. And they come to the park and they buy up my stuff. Because when you stage house, I don't want my pictures to look the same. So I'm constantly buying and selling, When it goes to 2 or 3 houses, that furniture gone. It's brand new furniture. So I need it gone. So I'm thinking, well, maybe once a month or twice a month, I can turn around and have people come to my park and just buy that stuff. You know, once a month, say every first of the month I'm open. And I'm selling stuff right there at the park in that little building of all the furniture that I have.
So you want a street light and then lights and electricity run inside, but you still don't need septic, so you don't have to worry about that $5 grand.
That's it. I need a pole barn and some lights.
See how we got down to the root of what she really needs? But she started out with absolutely, I want 110. Now she's to, well, what if you could keep the house? Or what if you owner finance that house to someone, and then you sold the note for enough cash to order to get your pole barn and open up your 3 properties, your 3.
I'm open for that.
Wow.
But that's how much money I know I need.
Wow. Then that's what we got something to start with, or you think you need. Because what if I could get the pole barn built for you cheaper?
Yeah, but still, there's still other little things I probably need to do out there. I mean, that's going to give me, and then see, when you're talking about that, like I told you, I bought a foreclosed trailer park. That was, like, the police stayed there. I see the police in town, they thanking me. Like, oh my God, everywhere I go, people think you have turned that trailer park around. We're never over there. We appreciate what you do. I mean, so before the police told me, if you have a tenant you want to run a background check on, we'll do it for you. I mean, they just very proud. So when I tell you the police, and even the chief of police, if you was to call him and say, what did you do to that trailer park? They compliment me. They're so happy that I did that to that property. But I live also in an area in Geneva where it is a renter's market. While I'm sitting here, I got two text messages. Somebody talking about they got a Section 8 voucher. Do I have anything for rent? I mean, this is every day. So I know the need in my hometown.
Gotcha.
So if I had 6 trailers out there, I could have them all rented out by the end of the month. And the people ain't going nowhere. They're going to move out in the middle of the night. Because one thing, I have built up a reputation in my community. They know I don't play. All my trailers are nice. When they move in, I tell them I do monthly inspection. And I really don't, but some months I just run by there so I can keep an eye on my property to see what's going on. I do manage it myself. You know, I have family, my parents live in Geneva, they retired, so my daddy, when he keeps the lawn. You know, I have a landscape company that come in and do my landscaping a couple times a year and different stuff like that. But it's a little community, and my family keep an eye on it, they look after it and all that, so people knows that. So they're very, you know, they know that my trailer park is well kept and all that kind of stuff. So, and also I bought one that I had to renovate all of them. I have like 11 trailers. I've had to renovate all of them. And I still have 3 more to go, but I also have 2 that don't have central air and heat units. And all the rest of them didn't have central air and heat units. I don't put brand new units at all of them. You know, people say, oh, just use one unit. The 1 unit is fine. That's not the look I'm going for. You know what I'm saying? So I know there's where I'm trying to build up my park. So that's why it's important that I make what I make, because I know the little extra stuff that I'm doing to my park and make it totally different from everybody else's. And that's why I don't have a high turnover. People get there, they're there for years because of that.
How many people use Facebook Marketplace to look for houses? Huh?
I don't that much.
All right.
But I just
I haven't seen anybody write down anything, but what I've heard was there's a place for 6 trailers, mobile homes to be moved to. How often do you see for sale, cheap, must be moved?
There was a couple of them on Marketplace.
But see,
Right now.
Move, there's stuff that I need to do, but I don't want to tie up all my cash. You see what I'm saying? I want to pay cash.
Hey, are you gonna let me do my job? Everything's a negotiation. A lot of times people have a mobile home that is in a place that has lot rent, and somebody passed away or whatever. So somebody's paying that lot rent and there's nobody living there, and they want to get rid of that trailer. They want to get it gone cheap. Or sometimes at 0 if you'll just move it. That's the type of stuff.
You're saying owner finance the mobile home and put it on.
That's on her. I would say in her situation, that it would be very simple. Now, if what she's doing is working for her and that's what she likes, then by all means, rock on with it.
But if I do, but that's also another option I'm going to do later. There are some people I know that want to get, buy a property or something, but they think they don't have no means. And the way I fix mine up and have them in there and the way it's looking, they'll want to buy my trailer. And I could easily do the owner finance option. I mean, my wheels are turned on that because I already know. People have asked me, will I do that with some of my trailers?
And my answer would be yes.
And see, that's why I'm glad I'm coming to this group like this, because I haven't did a lot of owner finance. I did none. In my 13 years of doing properties, period. I never did owner finance.
I'll give you an example. A lot of people think that you have to own the property free and clear to do owner finance.
True, and I know you don't. I know you don't.
There's a lot of options. What I was talking about was the property she already owns, owner financing it in order to get that leverage and that cash, because you can owner finance to someone who can't get bank financing. And then what reasons are there why you can't get bank financing? Well, there's one is you just have junk credit. That's easy to tell. You look at their credit. They don't pay their bills. They never paid their bills. Don't sell to them. Doesn't matter what kind of down payment they have. None of that matters. Look at their credit, and over the last 2 years, if it's been junk for 2 years, don't sell it. Okay? I'll give you a classic example of someone that you can sell to, and it's a home run. Sold one in a week last year in Ozark to someone who lost their house, their job, everything in Hurricane Michael. You look at her credit and everything was fine. Hurricane hit, she stopped making her credit card payments. She lost her job. That whole place down there was devastated. A lot of people lost everything. They were living in an RV. Found the property we had listed on Facebook, came up here, had the down payment money, moved into it, immediately started cleaning it up, posting pictures on Facebook, because I became friends on Facebook. Before you go owner financing people, go look at their Facebook. Go look at what they're posting. If their life is junk and their drama and everything's a the world against me, that's a clue, right? But if she immediately started planting plants, she started cleaning up, she started painting, she started posting my new house, and when the flowers started blooming and all that stuff, right? The girl worked 2 jobs in order to get everything back together and get situated. And at the closing table, she cried because no one else would have financed her. A bank wouldn't touch her. So that's what you look at. Single mothers will work their tail off if they know they're doing something that's going to benefit their family. And they ain't got to worry about that struggle no more. And that's what I have in that one in Ozark. And she's been late a couple times. She's always texting. I'll have it tomorrow, or it'll be, I get paid Friday, I'm sorry, I'll have it. And she has. So you look at a person's situation when you go into doing the owner finance, and you look at each person as an individual, not as a credit score. Because it could be someone who started a new business that's only been open for 8 months, but they're profitable as all get out, but they don't have 2 years of tax returns to take to a bank. So there's a whole bunch of different variables you can look at. When you do owner finance to someone, I always put in there that they can buy me out whenever they like, right? I take it a step further. You was talking about your lease options and trying to get the people to get their credit fixed, right, so that they can buy later. Right. 90+% of the time, that's not going to happen. No. Okay? Right. So here's a requirement that I have. If you're going to live in my property as a rent or as a lease with an option to purchase, if your credit score is below 620, you have to be enrolled in credit repair.
Okay.
I found a company that doesn't do a lump sum $2,500, $3,500 for credit repair. It's $99 a month for as many months as you need it. Whenever you're done and your credit's high enough, you cut it off.
And it's 99, it's a good reputable company.
Yep, and you go in into your account and they have all kinds of stuff. I mean, they have more than just, so you go in, they pull your credit, and then they draft letters for you specifically addressing each item on your credit for all 3 different bureaus. Then they send that to you, and the person signs it, and then they send it to the agencies. So if it's not a blanket, send this letter to everybody. It's look at your situation, here's what happened, explain that situation, and then try to get remedies for it.
What is that?
It's, what is it, FES? I can send you a link.
Okay.
Yeah, I became an affiliate, one of the coaches, okay, playing golf with him after the class. I'm the only person that played golf with this guy. Why didn't everybody that paid all this money to go to this class ask him to go play golf? Not one person, well, I went and played. The last day of the class, the guy that's over all of the coaches was the one that was given the class, and this coach came in. I'd met him in Vegas. He wasn't my coach, but I'd met him there. And he came in and spoke for a minute, and he even said, after this is over today, and again, I always go a day before and stay a day late, so they cut out at like 10 o'clock or something on Sunday morning, and he said, after class is over, I'm going to play golf with one of the students. And the director that's over all of them went, wait, who are you going to play golf with? And he pointed at me. Why didn't anybody else try to take that opportunity to network with that guy? I learned more stuff that afternoon playing golf than they talked about in the whole class. And one of the things that he taught me, he is a broker for RE/MAX, and they have offices set up that are nothing but credit repair, and they have people come in for the credit repair, and then once they get them to the point to where they can buy, then they send them to the broker. Ready to buy. They have been wanting to buy for years. They can't buy. Now their credit's been fixed well enough so they can buy. So who gets the business? Somebody they've already built reputations with and already built relationships with. They're real estate agents that are brokers for this company for credit repair. You're dealing with the same person. So I'm an affiliate with them. So I can put you in for my link. You guys can use it, or you can become affiliate yourself. It doesn't matter. But
Would you suggest that instead of just putting them with a broker in the beginning to
Well,
pre-qualify?
If their credit's below 620, yeah.
Okay,
Because you're not going to buy if you're below 620.
gotcha.
Why is it below 620? Again, go back and look at their credit. Is it because they don't pay their bills? That's not fixable.
Right.
It's not fixable in 6 months,
Right.
you know, unless they've got a promotion or something. I mean, you can pretty much tell that the whole reason why there's a FICO score and the reason why banks use it is because it's accurate. If it's less than 620, you're not paying your bills. You can have a bump, you can miss a payment here and there or do whatever and still be above 620. You actually have to mess up a few things to drop below. So, and again, you can look at it and see the history. Everything was fine and something happened, a divorce or got laid off or, and those things are, you can recover from. You can get a new job, but just the consistently not paying bills, don't owner finance to those people.
You said lease option 90% of the time that never happens?
Yep.
Does that mean they don't get their credit upgraded or they never buy the house?
They usually don't get their credit in a better situation because a lot of people that do the lease with the option to purchase really don't want them to purchase. They just want the purchase fee. So that's why I say go in from the front saying, look, and tell them up front, just like the class that I went to, 90% of people in the class will never do a deal. 90% of people who do a lease option never purchase. But there's a $5,000 option fee that you are paying.
Right.
I don't want you to pay me the $5,000 or whatever it may be,
Right.
unless you go through this credit repair program because I want you to purchase the property.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Do you want to just throw away the $5,000? No. Pay the $99 a month extra and get your credit to a situation so you can purchase later. And the same thing goes with the owner finance. The owner finance and the sandwich lease option or the lease option, both very, very similar. It's bond for title we can do in Alabama, and it's not a foreclosure, it's an eviction. They're very, very similar. When I do owner finance, it is a higher interest rate than you can get at a bank, because if you could go get money from a bank, go get it from the bank and just buy the property for cash. So your property you want 110 for it today, could you owner finance it for 140?
Oh, I'm sure I could.
All right, so what's the difference?
Cash today, cash later.
Well, if you could owner finance it at 140, how much is it worth?
That's what I'm saying, it's worth about 132.
So you probably get 140 and a higher interest rate. And then you've created a note that you can then sell.
Just haven't been much bad, like I said.
Nobody has around here. But that's why that guy called me and said, you need to go to this class. And I'm telling you, lunchtime first day, I'm fried.
And this is the note class. Wow.
The insurance class gonna be taught coming up again?
March is the next one. February is the cruise.
Wow.
They also do one in Puerto Rico where you leave on Friday, you come back not that Sunday, but the following Sunday. You have 5 hours of class per day, Monday through Friday, which qualifies you for international travel as a business expense, which qualifies a tax deduction for your travel, meals, lodging, everything except alcohol and your children's meals are all tax deductible. And it's a tax attorney that teaches the class, and the whole week is 5 hours of class, so it's all legal. 4 hours is the minimum, so they do 5, and then the rest of the afternoon, everybody's just partying and having a good time, vacation. And it's all tax deduction. So you've got the option to create a deal where you can get at least full market value. You said you've got a comp at 132. Yours is in better shape with central heat and air. You should easily be able to pull 140 on it at an 8 to 10% interest rate. Put it in the contract that once their credit gets up to a high enough rate, they can refinance through a bank and cash you out, Or you could sell a year or 2 or 5 years worth of the notes, whatever amount of money you need to sell of the notes in order to get your money to build your pole barn for your storage. I know a guy right now, if the numbers were right, he'll buy 5 years worth of your notes from you. Let's just say it to him, let's say 140, just a rough estimate. What's that going to be at 8% interest, probably about $700 a month. 7 a month, that's $9,600 a year. 5 years, 50 grand. He'd probably buy that for 35 or 40, and you could turn that into $35,000 or $40,000 cash right now and still own 25 years of notes.
That's crazy. That blew my mind. We'll call
Anybody got a mortgage calculator on your phone?
That's crazy.
Everybody should have a mortgage calculator on your phone if you're in this meeting.
I do know. Oh, wow.
All right, so 140,000, and we want to do 4% down. Why is that?
I just always want to, and especially on a deal like that, you just want to do it in case if something happens, then you got something.
Where'd I get the number 4% from, though?
You going based on average?
I just made it up.
Really? Just made it up.
You got to have, what, 3% down for FHA?
Right.
1% more than that. You could be whatever you want it to be. On a $140,000 house, it could be $5,000 down. It could be $10,000 down. It could be, and here's a way to get even more down. Minimum down payment is $5,000, but for every $1,000 over $5,000 you come up with, I'll take $1,000 off the purchase price.
I'll say it again.
Really? Wow.
What did you say again?
140,000, 5,000 down. So for every additional 1,000, 1,000 off the purchase price. So if I paid 10,000 down, what would that make it?
Selling for 140?
Yep.
135.
It'd make the purchase price 135 and the note for 125 because it'd be 10,000 down.
Yeah.
Would you rather have 10,000 down or 5,000 down? Now you have to cap that at some point because then they'd just offer you like 80,000 if they were smart and find the other 80 somewhere. But that's a way to get a higher amount for a down payment because you never know. You're not a bank, so you don't care where the money comes from. If you go to a bank to finance something, I can't loan you $10,000 for your down payment.
No. Wow.
Banks won't let you do that. You can't borrow money for a down payment. But you don't care. You're not a bank. You're a human. So if their grandmother said, listen, I've got $10,000, I want to give it to you, but I want you to invest it somewhere. Mattress money, it comes up all the time. People who have money that won't be in the bank for whatever reason, or they can't use it as down payment for whatever reason. All right, so yeah, I didn't finish it out. So let's just say 5,000 down, keep the numbers easy, and let's go at 10% just to see what it comes up on a 30-year note. Do 8%. So 140,000. Oh, that's 5,000 down, not 500. There we go. $140,000 purchase price, 5,000 down, 8% interest on 30 years is $996 a month. So you're looking at $1,200 a month by the time we get into insurance and taxes. What are you renting it for right now?
I don't have rent. I actually moved into it.
Oh, you're living in it. What do you think it would rent for if you rented it?
In Enterprise, it's at about $850.
$850. All right, so we're a little high. You can generally owner finance at the same amount somebody would pay for rent. If you believe in your mind, somebody would pay the same amount for an owner finance versus rent. Right? So people are typically willing to pay that or a little bit more. So if you called it $1,000 and you needed $25,000 to build your pole barn and get all that set up, $1,000 so you could sell 2.5 years worth of payments for $25,000, and then you'd still have 27.5 years of payments coming to you afterwards. But in the meantime, that $1,000 a month that you sold turns into $1,600 a month in rent because you opened up those 3 properties.
That's it.
That's Wow.
You gonna put it for sale? Owner finance, 140,000, 5,000 down?
I'm just sitting there thinking, like,
Wow.
What's the worst? Last month, who was here last month when the guy was like, I don't know, I need to talk to my partner. Post it.
So I just should just upload the pictures in this.
Yeah, on Facebook, for sale.
Wow.
Owner finance, slow credit, okay. Don't put bad credit. Slow credit, okay. And watch your phone blow up.
Wow.
I'm trying this week. So what do you
Anybody
think
else
about-
say anything
so
to
what
say
do
in
you
the
think
back?
about The water spots I got in the backyard.
What about it?
Do you think I need to invest in, I was trying to get those water spots up. And I was,
Are they hurting anything?
no, but when you cut the grass, it's mushy in one or two areas in the backyard.
Put a koi pond in.
That's what that's what I've been planning to do.
Don't fight nature, go with it. You're gonna lose if you fight nature. I've got an excavator, I'd come dig that crap up. You know how much money it's gonna cost you? A bunch.
I was about to say a bunch. We in the group, it's gonna cost a bunch.
I ain't saying for me to do it, I'm just saying, I have one, I know what somebody would charge you to do
They
it.
do, they charge a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Is
Is that why you invested in one, because you do so much real estate just to have one?
Oh, that's a weed eater for me. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah, I've got some land. Well, I've got land that needs a lot of work done on it. I've spent over $15,000 just cleaning it up. I picked up a dozer, I picked up a dump truck and a trailer. The last kind of piece I was missing was I didn't have anything to load the dump truck with. So I got the excavator. So now I've got all the pieces I need to move dirt around. I'm working on my own land first. I've got some ponds, it's got steep slopes on it, it's overgrown. Every time we try to weed eat it, we hit snakes, wasps, yellow jackets, hornets, whatever. They nest in that type of material. So every time I go and mow it, it's that battle. This machine has a cab on it and it's got a cutter head on it that will mulch up to a 4-inch tree. So I went for it, and I know other people, like the guy that did the mulching for me before, he's just got it on front of a skid steer, but I can reach 15 feet down and 22 feet up. So for any steep slopes, I've already told him, refer me to stuff you can't reach. And he called me last week. He's at a pond this weekend doing one where he can only get so close, and when her husband gets back, they're gonna have me come out and do around their pond. If I use the machine once a month, it will pay for itself. And then I get to use it for free to upgrade my property. Because I've got right at 40 acres that has ponds and overgrown, and it's so thick you can't even walk through it. That is part of my strategy for having cash money to invest, because I have a line of credit against that as is, but now I'm making that property better. So another thing that Pete says is figure out ways to not use your own money. So even though I went and bought this machine and I have payments on it, as long as I can use it once a month, then I'm using the machine to pay for itself, and then I get used to the machine for free. It's all about thinking. Before you came here, you had no idea you could owner finance that, sell 2.5 years worth of payments to get the money to turn your 3 houses into rentals instead of storage and build a pole barn. You sure you want 110 for it still? The real money in real estate comes in slowing down, listening to people's problems and figuring out how to solve it. That's why I ask why. Pete always asks, why would you sell such a beautiful home? That's his opener to get people to talking. Because there's a reason why you want to sell it. In your mind, it's you need cash money. Cash money is the worst form of currency there is. It is depreciating. The only benefit to it is it's fluid and you can move it. It's liquid. But if you start building relationships with investors, you can move property. That's why he does all these options. Option to purchase. But never uses them, trades them off for other options on different properties and other things. And then again, he goes, being cashed out, for an example. The guy that came here to tell me about, that come here with me for the weekend, he was talking about buying houses, owner financing them, and going through that whole process to set them up. And he said something about Most people don't ever cash them out. They don't ever go to a bank and get their own financing and cash them out. And I said, well, it must be kind of nice when they do those, like an unexpected big chunk of money. He said, I hate it. What do you mean you hate it? He said, every time I get cashed out, I have to go out and do the work to find another house, fix it up, and sell it to somebody else. It's more work. I'd rather them just pay me the money every month. Once you get to the point to where you're worried more about the monthly money coming in, which I didn't finish my calculation here, so your $140,000 house, if you were willing to sell it at 110 when you came in today, but if you sold it for 140 with 5,000 down at 8%, the total amount of money you would actually get paid for that house is $362,000.
It's a little bit. It's a little bit.
So instead of 110, it's 360. That's $250,000 difference.
Wow.
But you got to wait.
Wow.
But if you pick up 3 of those a year, see, 4 of those a year. Isn't that better than a wholesale deal?
Way better.
If you could have got that under contract from her for 105 and sold it to me for 110, and you made $5,000, that's one taxable event. Owner finance, completely different. That's not an ordinary income. That's portfolio income. It's taxed at a lower rate.
Wow.
I'm thinking about that deal I was gonna say. Especially where it's located. I mean, it's like a gold mine. It's like, I'm sitting here like.
But I'll figure out a way to buy it from you and sell it
I'm like,
in a week.
really? I'm like, really? This is crazy. I'm sitting when I tell you where it's at, you'll be like, I mean, I'm sitting here now just like, do I really want to sell that property? Like, this is what we need to do.
I told you. You got to give me first dibs.
Maybe
You done schooled me.
use as an example, I know that in some cases, people have bought the house and turn around and owner finance it themselves. You're taking like a percentage or two off of it, whereas the main financier is still getting their money, but you're getting a little piece of it, the person gets a home and it's all that. I'm not as familiar with that. I think Rob knows a little bit more about that, but that might be another option too. You don't want to take that entire, all that risk and liability onto yourself. You can kind of share, like you were talking about, sharing notes and everything like that.
Mhm.
There's various different ways to kind of split that up. So, and it really, the nice thing about being creative is that as long as it makes sense to people, they're like, okay, they don't have like a Wells Fargo rigid rules they have to go by and numbers and things like that. So, that might be something to kind of talk about as well.
I've got one in New Brockton. I'll run through this one pretty quick. The lady inherited it. She lived in Florida. I saw it. It was on Facebook. I contacted her. She took a day or two to get back to me. And then when she got back to me, she said, I got it under contract with somebody else for more. All right, I missed, right? I'm slacking. Because a lot of your really good deals are only going to be up for a day or less, right? If it's a really good deal, it's going to go quick. Because I'm going to find it. If it's on Facebook, you're going to have to beat me to it, okay? They posted one last week, and I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, it's owner finance. What is it? Usually if I see owner finance, I know it's at max price. And I scroll on down, and I was like, aha. Still sent you a message. Anybody else from the group messaging?
Did you sell it in a week?
No, I'm actually talking to a guy even as we speak about it, but.
You just posted it this week, though.
I posted it last Saturday
Yeah.
over the holiday, because I was getting cabin with my in-laws, so I was typing.
Working.
But in any case, we had it on MLS for about a month. Got one showing,
No, we had a couple,
got a couple showing.
but nobody called.
I was counting up as we were looking at, we had 14 hits, not including Rob. on the Facebook Marketplace. Because I'd actually heard Rob mention that's how he found a lot of his deals. I never used it before. And I was just kind of, playing around, and I just uploaded some of our pictures and pop. And I think I got my first hit in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, severely undervalued.
It's a cute little box.
Yeah. Cash price.
It's a round.
It's the one that you said, didn't give me, no, you sold it to me. We improved it, we put some flooring into it and everything, and, the cash price came in a little bit under what we put into it total. So, it's sort of a fire escape, you get out not losing a whole lot, but you're not making any too, other than just education. So, I'm saying we could do a little bit better. The reason, when I first bought it, and I don't mean to kind of start stepping on what you were talking about, but when we first bought it, we were looking at a couple of different strategies, and that was October. Things have significantly changed. As I said, I got this commercial deal that's looking to be, every single month, more and more good news coming out about it. So we kind of have to focus on that, and so the idea of maybe setting this up as a Section 8, getting a rental thing, right now I'm just kind of like, okay, maybe we need to put this aside, not worry about that for right now. We can always come back to something like that in a couple of years. But nothing wrong with the house. The house is great. It's in a good neighborhood. It's in an area of Dothan that rents pretty decent. The ROI is pretty good on it. It's a small house. It's 570 square feet. It's got 2 bedrooms and a bath. I wouldn't want to put a family with 8 kids into it. That would be a little bit tight. But certainly, for a younger person that's working, that wants to
Yeah, they're only 2 blocks from Foster Street down the road. And that, to me, is a big showing.
That's easy stagger distance. If you're doing that, or someone who's retiring. We had one of the people that contacted me on Facebook Marketplace is a nurse educator looking to get a house for her daughter that wants to move back to Dothan. So this would be the way to do it. So, we're in a position, I don't actually need that cash. I don't want to mess with the time. So kind of getting back to Rob's, what problem are you solving? My problem has always been time. I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of this stuff. So I don't want to put the time into it to get a renter, interview them, place them. Certainly property management is not going to be something I do. And then, dealing with the ongoing issues with tenants, which you have had, it sounds like a real hard time with some of that stuff. I don't even want to go down that path. But I like the idea of passive income. Certainly the tax benefits would be, I hate 2 things, work and taxes. I don't mind work so much, but man, I sure hate taxes. It pains me when I see how much I spend or send to both Washington and Montgomery. But in any case, so that's kind of where we are. But yeah, I can't recommend Facebook Marketplace enough. If you wanted to do something like that, to get creative, and I thought it was very interesting the difference between the MLS, the traditional, place where we go to look for houses, versus Facebook, which is sort of an interloper. I didn't even post it on Craigslist. I was considering doing it, but I also posted it on Bigger Pockets, which if y'all are not familiar with, you should be. That's a great resource. I haven't heard anything from Bigger Pockets. Just a few things from the MLS, but Facebook Marketplace, boom. Wow. So definitely look into that.
We're on Zillow too. You want to look at this little house? 550 St. Andrews Street, Dothan, Alabama. I've met the neighbors. They're both fine. They don't ever give me any trouble when I'm down there. Like I said, it's 2 blocks from Foster Street. It would be great for, newly married, single mom with kids, something like that. The schools in the Dothan area, they went through that big shakeup last year, but they're just like anything that happens like that. They settle down. They're committed to that school system over there. They're going to make it better. They just need a year for all the parents to kind of calm down a little bit. and it'll be fine.
The high school's good, it's the middle school.
Yeah, it's the middle
Yeah.
school. And the middle school everywhere, I don't care what city you're in, everywhere, the middle school always gets more crap than everybody else, because, come on, at 11, 12, and 13, you ain't nothing but emotion and stupid.
So you're listed at 25
Yeah,
on Facebook.
yeah.
Anybody come to buy a house today? Or just sell a house or just learn? All the above?
What was the address again?
550 St. Andrews, Dothan, Alabama.
Wow.
It's actually South St. Andrews.
Well, yeah.
Well, I say that because I've tried to put St. Andrews in it.
On Zillow.
It's
yeah.
swirly on it, so.
It's empty right now?
It's vacant.
They did some work on it, put new flooring, new window.
Yeah.
And it's 1:20, just to remind everybody, we have to be out of here before 2 o'clock, so.
Oh, okay. The roof is good and solid.
Yeah, never had a leak in there.
Could use a little bit of landscaping on the outside. Appliances stay. They've been there. I mean, you know, they're used appliances, but they're working.
Yeah.
Really, it's rent ready at this
Yeah,
point.
it is.
You can put somebody in there.
Like I said, the neighbors on both sides are fine.
And again, 2 blocks from downtown Dothan.
And what are you asking for to do?
We have 25 listed.
And you can always contact us later.
Yeah.
We're still here. It'll be up on Facebook Marketplaces.
Okay.
Just like Rob said, we're not taking it down or anything like that till I get a contract and some earnest money.
Well, we are, I mean, we do owner financing. As I said, I already have a couple of notes, so I'm very familiar with that. I'm very open. I've got a couple of houses in Detroit that I own 50% of, and then I share 50% with someone who's doing the property management aspect of it. So I'm open to a lot of different things. You know, the reason, again, that I'm looking to even sell this is, so, you know, you solve that problem, you may get a pretty decent deal, and a pretty solid rental.
Yeah. And that area across the street, they're renovating the houses, which means you've got people in that area that are trying to improve that area. So, you know, you're gonna see some good stuff going on over there.
You know the rent rate right now?
Isn't it? Well, Zillow says 550. but, you
Yes.
know.
Okay.
Rentometer has it between 500 and 600. Zillow estimates at 550. I know of a rental kind of around the corner that's about 425, but
Yeah.
it is considered low. So I think it's safe to say between 5 and 550 you should be able to get it.
Any offers? Don't be gun shy.
So I've actually got a question. It's related to this house that one of the people on Facebook Marketplace is asking. Maybe y'all have the answer. It says, is Houston County, Alabama, where they exclude seniors over 65 to pay real estate taxes? Does anyone know the answer to that? Some states, they exempt seniors from having to pay real estate taxes. I think Tennessee is one of them. Florida may be one of them. I don't know if Alabama is or not.
Yeah,
So,
they have some kind of program like it in Geneva County.
Do they?
Geneva?
But you have to
Okay.
sign up for the program.
Yeah. it's
So you have to
something-
qualify for the program.
Yeah, it's gotta be something like a disability, but yeah, when a certain age, you gotta be a certain age,
And-
disability, yeah.
Right.
I can look it up. I just
But I
didn't
know
know if
Geneva County
anybody
got it, because I
knew
know
that
some
off the
people
top
have
of their
taxes
head.
in their home property.
I suggest talking to a realtor if you know one.
I haven't heard of that one before. She knew that more than me, I'm sure. I'd have to call a mortgage person or something like that to find that out. or
All right, well, everybody else has got until 2 o'clock to make an offer on that. I'm probably gonna buy it after 2 o'clock.
There you go,
Revenue Commission.
she knew that one, I didn't know that one. over your years in this business pays off right there. See?
And I didn't go, see, that was the thing, how he said that he paid all this money. I used to babysit for somebody who, if I call his name, everybody will know him in this community. He's a big time, real estate guy now in this area. I used to babysit for him when I was like 12 and 13 to work at one of his stores when I was a kid. And I used to ask him so many questions, like I would go to their house and be at their house 3 months later, they would babysit, and they like, oh, we're gonna be moving, so you come next time, we're gonna be such a like, why are you moving? And then he would explain to me, well, I just borrowed the money from the bank, I built this house, we sold this house, we moving, and they just kept moving and kept moving. But as a child, but I've always been creative and loved to decorate and had an eye, so I would listen to him tell me all these different things he would do, and it just never dawned on me, and I just kept doing my thing. And here I get about 25, 26, you know, I gotta keep dealing with me on like, you know, you're supposed to be doing houses and stuff. You need to be back decorating houses, and I'm thinking I went to college, but I got a degree in marketing, journalism and marketing. Like, you know, people say I can't make money doing that. I ain't gonna pay nobody to decorate. You know, it's just how, you know, in my mind, I'm young, thinking, you know, when I tell people I'm gonna be a designer, I'm gonna decorate houses and redo houses, they look at me like, oh, honey, you know, think I'm black. You know, everybody made me think I need to go to college, get a degree, you know, finish school, and, you know, go work for somebody. And I just knew in my heart that that was just not what it is. And I even went on to have good careers and ended up in pharmaceutical sales. And like I said, I was there for 10 years, and in 10 years, I was bought out 4 times. So the 4th time, I was like, you know what? This is my cue here. And, you know, and even in the last probably 2 or 3 years of just stuff that was going on in the pharmaceutical industry, I was just trying to pay off everything. You know, I was in a big house, and I said, oh, I'm gonna sell this house, I'm gonna downsize. And, you know, just little things like that, I had already prepared my mind, because I already knew, okay, when this job ends, I'm not going to work for nobody else. I am going to do real estate full time. And literally that's basically just what I did, just kind of just stepped out on faith, and I didn't pay for no training from nobody. I mean, just trial and error. As I was doing pharmaceutical, I would buy a house here, sell it, you know, sell it in 3 to 4 months. Like we did a house here, just I finished on Fieldcrest here just before Christmas. I was in the house, took me 8 weeks to regut it and redo it. We sold it in 7 days. So, you know, it was just one of those things I just knew in my gut. And I just kind of read, and I believe in investing in myself. So every year I go to conference. Matter of fact, this particular weekend I was supposed to be in Los Angeles at a conference. It's a women's conference, and it's about building wealth, and you know, people from all over that comes to these conferences every year. Usually in Miami, but this year's in California. I didn't go due to a couple different things that happened at the end of last year, and I was unable to attend. But I believe every year I invest in myself. I spend a couple, you know, $2,000 or $3,000 going to some kind of seminar or conferences where people are talking about building wealth or real estate and different things. But I never, and I just did this probably the last 3 or 4 years. Before it's just going to somebody, like I have a girlfriend who I met in Dallas as I was going out doing these different, at this women convention, where she's paid $30,000 to go to real estate school out in California. She's from Dallas, and they invested $30,000 to go to, you know, I was like, wow. And it was people there like hard money lenders, all kind of stuff. I was like, God, you know, but, you know, everybody have different experiences. Now she's doing something with her, you know, she paid $30,000, but she still haven't made really money. You know, when I talked to her, because she was so interested that I didn't go to nobody's school, and where did I get this stuff from? Because I started doing this when I was 27, so she's like, how did you learn? I said, you know, like you said, trial and error, but I can really tell you a big part of mine was just having faith in God, because when I bought my first house, my first flip, I didn't know what I was doing. And back then, when I borrowed money from the bank, you could get money. If you had good credit, you can get money, don't even pay no money down. So here I was, go borrow the money from the bank. I ain't put no money down in 3.5, 4 months. I'm walking away with $27,000 just because my note ain't even due for 6 months. I done bought and redid and fixed up the house and sold the house. But you know, them days is gone, but you know, you know, but that's how I first started.
Not necessarily. I bought one last week with no money down, $250,000 house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to do a long time ago. They used to do my notes.
All In does it. Now I'll tell you,
Who does it?
All In Credit Union has got one right now. It's a 10-year AM. It's a 30-year AM with a 10-year balloon, 100% financing for investors.
What? See, I'm learning something. All In. We never.
Now, I want to tell you this. We were supposed to close on that thing in November. We just closed it last week. Because All In Credit Union is not used to seeing what I've got.
Wow, so you bought, so the property was 250?
Yeah, purchase price was $250.
What are you gonna do? You gonna flip it?
It's already got somebody in. No, it's a nice house. It's rented for $2,300 a month. It's a 4-year note or a 4-year mortgage, and they're in 2 years.
And they don't
4-year
buy it?
lease. Sorry,
4-year lease.
4-year
They don't buy it?
lease. No, he's military. No,
Oh, wow.
he's from some other country.
See, that's what I'm about to tell you about this property that I know about my other property. You done schooled me. Wow. What's the square footage of the house?
I don't know.
No, the house that you
I don't know.
don't know.
No, I just bought it. I ain't even been in it.
You ain't been in it.
Mm-mm.
So did you
Why
buy?
don't I go bother my tenants for? I ain't paying the rent. I don't
Okay,
care.
so you just bought the note from somebody else.
No, I bought the house.
But
Mortgaged
you never
it.
been in it?
No,
Well, how you got a tenant there if you never been in it?
they were already there. They've been there 2 years.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So how did you buy the house and I'm confused? Tell me.
Another investor owned it. I bought it from him.
There you go. That's the key. That's what I need. You had to buy it from somebody.
Yeah, well, it was a rental before I got it. It's a rental now. They actually put a swimming pool in for him. He paid $6,500 non-refundable deposit in order for them to put the swimming pool in, and he had to stay in the property for at least 24 months in order to get his money back because they didn't want to put a swimming pool in and him bounce on the lease. So he signed a 4-year lease with a $6,500 non-refundable, or I'm sorry, refundable after 2-year deposit for them to install the pool. They're from New Zealand or something. They were swimming in February. That's what the guy told me. He's like, they're from somewhere cold. I don't know where.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just telling you, I appreciate you just giving me all this advice today. And I'm just like,
That's what the purpose of it is. I spent all that money. Why not share it? And hopefully on the other side of that is I find some deals along the way.
That's it. You got each other. It's like you said, there's something on.
Okay, New Brockton.
Okay.
I have a house in New Brockton. Lady put it on Facebook. I found it. She come back to me and said, I got it under contract with somebody else. Okay, no problem. A few weeks go by, same house pops back up. New Brockton, for sale. Weird. Okay. Hey, still interested. She acknowledges that she got my message. I don't remember, okay, thanks, or whatever it was. Didn't say anything, and a day or two went by, and I messaged her again and said, hey, I'm still interested in your house. But I'd made her an offer. But my offer was low. And she came back again and said, thank you for your offer, but I've accepted a higher offer from somebody else. Okay. Then, the next day, that same house popped up for sale for $5,000 more, listed by somebody else. How would that happen? Wholesaler.
Bought it and
First one was a wholesaler, got it under contract too high, couldn't sell it. Second guy comes in and I see it pop up again. And I look, I'm like, wait a minute, this has got to be a wholesaler. Same house, same pictures, didn't even go take his own pictures, took the same pictures. Pull him up, found where he worked, obviously not an investor, wholesaler, right? Because it's Facebook. You put your jobs on there, okay? So I messaged her and said, hey, listen, I see this, and then it popped up again in Georgia. So I screenshot those, I sent it back to her, and I said, hey, listen, the person that's buying this, or that you've got this under contract with, has no intention of buying it. They're a wholesaler. They're trying to mark it up and make a little bit. The price is too high. When it does not sell, contact me. I am an investor. My offer is real, and I will close. She wrote me back a little nasty gram. I know what his intentions are. A month later, I'm sitting at Buffalo Wild Wing in Dothan and just got a big tall beer and some wings set in front of me, and my phone goes off, and it's been so long I don't think nothing about it, and it says your offer's still good. What?
Which offer?
I had to scroll through, see who I'm talking to, because that's how, yeah. Come to find out, contract was for 30 days or whatever it was, getting close to the end, and he was trying to extend. Still hadn't found a buyer. Why? Too high. We got that property under contract for $20,000. Now, normally don't do this on owner finance. It's one of the benefits to it is you don't have to do much work or any. This one, we put a new roof on it. We painted it on the outside. We put new flooring in, painted on the inside, new appliances, new electrical outlets, flooring, paint inside and out, roof, appliances, yeah. Had 32 into it. We borrowed 30 from a private money lender, so my out-of-pocket expense on this property is $2,000. Normally, we like to have some buffer in there because there's an amount of money that you have to spend for marketing to find your next property, right? So typically, you want to take 2 instead of putting 2 extra in. But this one just worked out. We decided as the time was going by, instead of putting in, which in this house we could have totally gotten away with putting in used appliances. We didn't. We put in brand new stainless, the whole thing. Metal roof instead of shingles, right? Anyway, put it up, sold it in a week for $69,000. Is that right? Numbers are running together. $69,000 or $79,000. So, back to the owner finance. I borrowed private money to purchase it. I borrowed $30,000 at 8%. I sold the house for $59,000. 69, $70,000 total, yeah. Yeah, more than double. So, borrowed 30, sold it for 69 at 10%. So, I'm making 2% on the first 30, and I'm making full 10% on the $26,000 that's left over after the down payment. So I got my $2,000 back that I was out of pocket. I got $4,000 down, so I got $2,000 in pocket that's taxable. I'm making 2% on the first 30, and I'm making 10% on the remaining 26. My payment out is $227, payment in is $650. So I make $422 a month on that deal. And if the toilet breaks, I don't get a phone call. You're talking about your rental problems and all of that stuff. The one in Ozark, right after she bought it, she sent me a message on Facebook like within a couple of weeks and said, the refrigerator quit working. Where can I find a new one? Cheap. Versus, my refrigerator will quit working, bring me a new one. That's a totally different message. Because my one went Facebook Marketplace, send, and I was done with it. The other one is still Facebook Marketplace, but then you got to find it, go buy it, go get it, and deliver it.
So was that house for that neighborhood a little bit underpriced of what?
No, it's over. It's at the top of the market. Whenever you do owner finance, you can go to the top of the market. You can go to the top. You can push it a little bit. You can set the high comp if you're doing owner finance because there's a reason why they're using your finance and they can't get it somewhere else. Now, her payment was $650. Rent would have been $650. That's where you got to stay in line. You can't have a payment just because somebody gets lost in the I can own a house. You couldn't make that payment $1,000 a month. You still got to keep your equivalent of what they would pay for rent and then work the numbers backwards. That's how I come up with a $69,000 purchase price, was I worked it backwards from what the rent would pay or would cover at what interest rate. And on the Ozark house, we had to actually adjust the interest rate a little bit because it was supposed to be at 10, but I think it worked out to being like 9.61 or something. In order to make her payment exact, it was like her payment is $649 and some change instead of it being $662, because I advertised it for $650 a month, and because I actually advertised at $650 a month, I couldn't turn around and say $661. So the 10%, I just called the attorney and said I need the payment to be as close to 650 as you can. And he sent me a message back and said your payments or your interest rate is 9.61, you know, truncated out number. And it's like 649. $140. Anybody got anything to wrap up? Ask questions. Find out why they want to sell. You might have an opportunity where someone would owner finance when 10 minutes ago they wouldn't. And it'd be beneficial for everybody. Most people immediately assume, though, when they go to sell a house, they want the full amount up front, and typically that's the worst way to sell. You have the absolute maximum tax penalty for doing that. You have the absolute minimum purchase price you're going to get for doing that, because you either have to have cash or go to a bank. When you start involving banks, then you're taking more money away, because then you're paying everybody, right? You got to have a home inspection. You have to have an appraisal. You have to pay the bank and their fees. You have to pay realtor. You have to pay all of these sums of money that have to come out of your sales price, almost always. So if you were to sell a house at 110 through a realtor, then you're getting 195. Well, you see my point. All right, so even at 130 with your comp at 132, you're down to 115 immediately. So you'd still be just as good off to sell.
So I see you a lot on finance, you don't do a lot of
I do what the property tells me I need to do with it. I'm not subjective. I go in knowing as little as I know at this point. I know there's a lot more to know, but I go in thinking, how do I make the deal fit you? Like when you started talking about yours, I'm not biased. If I can leave a bank out of it, I do. That's first. But the one I just told you about, it was 100% financing on a house that's only a couple years old. It's got a tenant in there. No money down. I've still got enough loans left on my credit, I guess, where, like I said, it took forever to close it, because I do have the owner finance deals. They asked for a list of properties I own. I was 112, 114, 116, 118, 120, 122 Cody Drive. Well, I got a phone call for that. We don't understand this address. What do you not understand about it? Well, it's really, really long. It's 6 addresses. That's why it's long. What do you mean? Well, you know when you drive down the street, on one side of the street it's odd, and on the other side of the street it's even, right? Yeah. Well, I've got 6 on the even side. They're all connected. Oh, I just didn't put 112 Cody Drive Enterprise, 114 Cody Drive. And then the owner finance ones. You would think a bank would understand a mortgage. What do you mean they're not financed through a bank? You guys aren't the only people that have money that want to get more than 1% interest on that money.
There's all these mortgage companies out there and things like that, and private money and all that.
Yeah, and they create these mortgages and then they sell them. Who's buying mortgages like crazy right now? Hedge funds buying the crap out of them. And there's actually, what's that, iBuy?
iBuyers, there you go.
You heard about these people? Oh, they are the big dogs.
Sold in Phoenix, Arizona right now are all by iBuy.
Chattanooga's getting hit really hard right now. Yep. It's a hedge fund that's going in and buying houses like we want.
Right.
They're going to be our direct competition soon, so polish your game. They are going in and they're doing wholesale, they're buying cash money, and they're trying to get below wholesale.
So they're basically crowdfunding.
They're hedge funds, they've got billions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Billions with a B.
Wow.
And they're going out and buying this real estate. What does that tell you when these big companies are coming in and buying cheap real estate? You're at the top of the market, because what increases in value when the market tanks? Rent.
Wow.
Because if you can't afford your $200,000 house, you have to rent an $80,000 house until you get your stuff back together and you get foreclosed on. Another thing Pete was talking about, and this will probably be the last thing I probably will mention this also every meeting, In 2007, his financials, he said he looked like a genius. He was worth multi-millions of dollars. 2009, he couldn't go to the bank and get finance for a cup of water. But in 2009, his monthly cash flow was higher than it had ever been, even though his net worth was actually negative. How is that possible? Everything was rented, and rent prices went up. So the bank, your $100,000 house is now worth $50,000, but you used to rent it for $750 a month. Now you're renting it for $1,200 a month. His monthly income was higher, but on a balance sheet, it looked like he was bankrupt, making more money than he ever had made in his life on a monthly basis. Low-end houses, they can only drop so much. If it's a $50,000 house today, the market can tank. Yeah, it'll still rent, or rent for more. So I actually had 5 small houses under contract, and then I had the one big house, and that's, when I went to the attorney's office and dropped off, I said, well, see, I'm preparing for the recession. I've got 5 little ones, and I got one expensive one. This one could tank, but these will go up, so they offset each other. Anything else?
Just want to answer my own question because I looked it up while we were talking, but apparently Alabama does exempt their portion of the property taxes if you're over the age of 65. And every county has like a special homestead exemption. Yeah, you got to file paperwork for, and I don't know how much that would be, but just FYI if it comes back up again. I pointed out to the buyer, I said it's really only listed at $85 a year, so I don't know how much of an exemption you're going to get. But there it is. I mean, you know,
Yeah, $6.
maybe you don't get a Happy Meal or
A cup of coffee.
whatever you want. But in any case, that was something I learned while we were sitting here. It was brought to me by a buyer. I'm like, yeah, okay, so 65 and older, no state property taxes. That ain't so bad.
Yeah. All right. Thank everybody for coming. I'm going to clean up, you guys network for a few minutes, and then the lady will be here to kick us out, and I'm surprised she's not here already. Thank everybody for coming. Appreciate it. Yeah. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you.
Absolutely, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. What's your name?
Ron.
Ron?
Yeah, I was
okay.
supposed to come the last time. I didn't get a chance.
Okay,
I
yeah.
wanted to make it because the vehicle went to the shop, but I said, nah, I got to this so I borrowed.
Good. Well, I hope you learned something.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions actually. You know, I was hoping to have like a business card or something.
I can give you my phone number. Be easier.
I did a deal and it went south one time.
Just a little bit, but whatever.
A text message.
Oh, and next month we need to go look at some houses after.
Okay, I have something.
I can't this month. I got somewhere to be at 4:30. You got some?
Yeah, I'll have one.
There you go. You sure? I might buy it for then.
We're gonna see. You don't
Well,
know.
you do it. This is what.
Oh my! Now I'm thinking.
I saw
I
it.
think we need to keep this. I
Well, you're not invited back next month then.
don't. But I'm gonna call you and find you a good deal.
All right, go ahead.
I have a friend that's coming with me, probably next month also. She was supposed to come today, but
Because this really.